When the Congress government replaced the BJP government in Karnataka, the government announced that the textbooks were too one-sided. They had to be set right, and so committees were set up, and after 2 years of research, they came up with new books, and guess what? They were full of mistakes yet again. On the show today, we look at what makes textbooks so vulnerable to howlers. It's especially important because the NCERT has now invited suggestions because they're going to review all books from nursery till class 12. So what we're asking, what should go into reviews? And why is it such a sensitive topic? Remember, you can send in your suggestions to NCERT till the end of this month. But before we talk about all about these reviews that are taking place and what should go into NCERT books, first, let's take a look at a few gems from previous books. So that's what we're talking about with these mistakes being detected in the Karnataka textbooks. They're full of them, as we just showed to you, that they spell when they mean Shaina, they say Sanya, and they also got the medals of PV Sindhu wrong. Lots and lots of spelling mistakes as well. Let me just go introduce you to our panelists today. As NCERT is looking to review all these textbooks, we have Abha Sehgal, who used to be the principal of Sanskriti School, educationist, well-known educationist. In studio, we have a textbook publisher and the President Association of School Public Book Publishers, that's Dinesh Goel. In Bangalore, we have Dr. Padmanabha. He's a director, Center for Research, Development and Training in Education, also the principal of a school there. And we also have Dr. Janki Rajan, someone who knows all about textbooks because she was part of the body which rewrote Delhi government schools textbooks, and they got a lot of praise for that. So first, I just want to start with you, Dr. Padmanabha, because we've just pointed out some of those mistakes that have come up in those textbooks. We'll be showing those mistakes again to our audiences as well. But tell us, as part of that, just point out some of those prominent mistakes which have come up after 2 years of work by the textbook committees in Karnataka. They didn't want to come on camera. They said they're officials, so they can't speak. But tell our audiences and viewers what kind of mistakes they made.
Yeah, one thing I would like to tell you is, see, first thing, there was, I don't know whether there was a political issue that came into the picture. When the BJP government had been taken up under the chairmanship of Dr. Mudambaditaya, it was a very nice program that had happened. I don't know what happened all of a sudden when Congress came into the picture, and then they started telling that no, these books are not good. There was something called a saffronization and all those things. But ultimately, it is coming to the point where the students are the victims and teachers have to use this. Consider, like, if it is a Bangalore in a city base, okay, teachers are being much equipped with, students are also knowing everything. In fact, like, for example, if it goes to rural places, these textbooks are considered to be something like, a great epic, and all of them depend on these books. And if these people do such mistakes and then send it across, and even after 2 years, and if this one of the person tells that these books had so many mistakes and it was saffronized, and the same thing has been continued again. So how are they going to correct? And recently we also had all the subject experts to meet across in Bangalore, and we were discussing about why there was a need for again a change of books.
That's right. And this is not the only, this is one instance of it. Every time we see, it's quite an occasional thing that happens. Every couple of months we see new instances of textbooks getting it wrong. For example, a recent textbook which was then completely dissociated with and disowned by the CBSE was one which said that a woman's body shape, this is what the ideal should be. Then one of the things that the Chhattisgarh class 10 book said, that working women were one of the causes of unemployment in the country.
When you just look into the Yeah, no. When you look into the state textbooks, when it was revised, and they should have had at least a concern to see that what typographical errors or whatever they were been calling as should have been corrected it. At least when you've been releasing it, telling it is we are dividing the books into part A and part B, you should have taken some concern and you would have checked it for all the errors that are there. And how can you just tell away that there are typographical errors and just leave it off? And it's not fair on your part when you tell that. And there are also people to tell, the people who have written the content have been telling that it was not edited properly. They have just taken the content from one person and they've just gone it for printing. Even after printing, at least once they would have done a good checkup.
Okay,
That is
I
not being done at all.
understand your
That's not being
angst.
done.
I understand your angst, sir. There are so many mistakes. And, this is just not something that's happening in Karnataka. It happens in other places as well. Ava Sehgal, if I can go across to you, have you seen, one second, sir, you made your point. Ava Sehgal, have you seen instances of this in your career of mistakes in textbooks after they were allegedly reviewed?
No, see, the thing is, like, even
Dr. Padmanabha,
yes, there have been mistakes.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Sehgal.
See, mistakes is something which one has detected, not only in textbooks, but in various other written material. We do detect mistakes, we do point them out, and they are rectified. So education is, we would all appreciate, is a field where we cannot afford to make mistakes, because whatever the child is exposed to as a written word, whether it is on the blackboard or it is in the textbook, it gets imprinted in the child's mind and stays on in the child's mind forever. So there is no scope for error, there is no scope for saying that this is a human error, there is no scope. So textbooks do need to be edited very, very carefully, and they should be edited, re-edited before the final print is out, because it's a question of giving it to a child who is going to stay with that information forever.
Okay.
So there is need to be very, very careful about what we print in the textbook.
There is no excuse at all. It is 100%, it's a duty of the concerned department when they tell that there are textbooks going to be sent by the government and distributed across the state, and there should be a concern. You cannot go away just like that. I do strongly agree with this, madam.
Yes.
I do strongly agree for this.
Okay. I know there are students over here, they have lots of suggestions, because remember why we're doing this show is because the NCERT has asked for reviews. So they have the students over here, the audience over here, they have lots of suggestions. But first I want to go across to Dr. Janki Rajan. Dr. Rajan, as someone who did it right, because when the review was done, when the Delhi school textbooks came out, there was lots of praise for it because you also updated it. There were a lot of things you changed, like gender biases. You introduced some lessons which didn't show women in the typical stereotypical roles. You took care of all of this. But even so, we see so many mistakes coming up in books from various states. What is the advice you'd give, and what are the things to keep in mind now that NCERT is reviewing textbooks from class 1 to class 12? So that's really a huge amount of work there. What would you want them to keep in mind?
I think it's important to remember more than the kind of typological errors and mistakes that you have been pointing out. We need to look at books from a different perspective altogether, and that is basically to understand that through 12 years of education, and textbooks form a very major role in this education, a whole tapestry is built in children about the idea of India, about what the world is about, the social world, the scientific world, the real world, and what is it that we want the children to learn at that time. There needs to be a lot of discussion and understanding, and a framework very clearly thought out, wise framework based on research, based on the best of research. And it's very often children's textbooks are considered to be, it's only for children, so anybody can write a child's book, which is absolutely not true. So very, very important is to understand what is it that the next generation needs to know. And it's a 12-year span. It's a long-term project.
How long do you think that will take?
To understand what
Dr.
needs
Rajan,
to be done
how long do you think it will take? They haven't really set a time frame.
Look, I can't. No, if you're talking about how long it takes to build a book, if you have the right kind of people, and it's very important to have the right kind of people, and when I say that, I mean a whole gamut, people who work in children's literature, people who work with children, pedagogues. You need also experts. I don't mean subject experts. If you talk about history, you cannot talk about a history school teacher who's taught for 25 years as the subject expert. You need to draw in people from higher education, from universities, historians. And the same thing is true about scientists. So what did happen in the Delhi textbook system was that we had people, let's take scientists as an example. We had people from the Bose Institute, the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Tata Institute of Science. They were looking at trying to build a series of books for young children, 10-year-old, 11-year-old. It's not that, anybody can write a book. So that level of seriousness, that level of desire to give the very best to children has to burn very deeply into the team that is bringing. And very, very important is the pedagogic aspect. Okay. You see, every child needs to find themselves and their community reflected in the books. And that can only happen if you have a deep respect for plurality, deep respect for differences in the way we are as a country, a deep respect for the syncretism of our country. Okay. And these are things which are very strongly politically driven as well. So you need a group which is strong enough to be able to resist populist measures, populist desires, and especially in today's scenario where there's a very aggressive, single-minded ideology, and you have to think my way, or if you don't think my way, then you are nothing, and you deserve to be aggressed
and
upon,
that, I think, Dr.
or
Rajan,
even
is
beaten
where
up
it
for
gets
having
tricky,
certain thoughts.
because
these are very, very important
issues
issues for the
in,
team.
Dr. Rajan, we're seeing some of the comments that people sent in, and it's always political. They say, why do we need to know about Mughals? We should have more about Cholas. And, that kind of balance.
No, this absolute, one second. I would say that it's a perfectly legitimate thing to ask questions. Why should we have Mughals and why should we not have Cholas? And this discussion must happen. And this discussion must happen at what level? It can't happen at the ground level. It has to happen amongst the academics.
Okay.
And they both, and it's
I
only
want
when
to
they
take
get
it,
together.
Dr. Rajan,
and if that is
lots of the students
politicized.
have questions for you. I want to take some of them. What did you say was wrong with your textbook?
Yeah, sure.
Because I felt that my physics practical books were not updated because I and my grandfather read the same thing. So that was something where I felt that our NCERT textbooks are not updated at all.
You and your grandfather read the same textbook?
Yes.
Does that...
That's a very surprise news, really. But at the same time, I don't know, you're talking about the physics. I'm not from the NCERT side. I'm as a publisher. What the earlier Ms. Janki and Abaji and other dignitaries said, very seriously, even any of the state government or the NCERT, you find both of them, any state and the NCERT, में बहुत बड़ा difference नहीं है, because once they publish they feel for the decade or like that. What she said, कि भाई मेरे grandfather and I'm using the same books. हो सकता है.
Which subject was this?
Physics. She said
Physics.
about physics.
Okay.
Yeah, all practical.
I just want to ask, do you think, Janki Rajan, that's okay to have the same physics textbook? She had the same one as her grandfather?
Well, it depends really upon the knowledge. You see, you take a classic, which is, well, today we are saying Ramayana is something that we have to learn, and that is old not just for grandfather level. It's old for 5,000 years of humanity in India. So I think we need to be a little more careful about what we say, who reads, and it's not that every 10 years something new is coming up. And if you're talking about classic literature, which is introduced in schools, these classic literature, it doesn't matter if it comes from the 17th century.
And you,
it
of
has
course, feel
impact for humanity even now, and that is true for science also, I would say.
Okay, Dinesh Goyal,
so I mean, in the last 70 years, Professor Yashpal says this. Last 70 years, what has been the scientific discovery?
Okay, Dr. Rajan, 1 second. You, of course, think, Mr. Goyal, that you need private publishers like yourself, because NCERT doesn't change as much and you can provide more variety to it. And of course, the government in Uttar Pradesh and other states,
they're going to. Yeah,
they want just NCERT books.
Not only the Uttar Pradesh government, I think all the BJP state government, they're planning for that. And at the same time,
because they're cheaper and yours are very expensive.
Price is one of the factor, but not the only factor.
They want the NCERT textbooks because that's what is the base for the competitive exams in class 12.
Right.
Your pre-medical exam, your engineering exam is based on the NCERT textbooks. So let's not forget that.
That's right. That's a good point.
That's what you said earlier about the price. Our private publisher price is a little bit higher than the NCERT, undoubtedly, because by any reason, we cannot compare with the NCERT price.
Okay.
The most important, the content. We publishers, regular intervals, in the regular intervals, we meet the teachers, the academicians, sometimes children also, and on the basis of that, we take the feedback from them. Then we find the good authors, or you find any of the publishers, regular intervals, we revise the books, regular intervals. The NCERT program, 2005 in National NCF, National Curriculum Framework, they published the books, and till 2017, almost nothing changed.
That's true. But that's why they're reviewing it. I just wanted to get a couple of more questions.
No, what makes you think that every year
I
you
feel
need
there's
to
a
change a
need
book?
to
What is
increase
the
the
basis?
difficulty level of the NCERT textbooks, because I'm an alumna of Bluebell School International, and I don't remember using maths textbooks for NCERT till class 8, because it was always R.S. Agarwal. And I also feel that in order to consider NCERT questions as our Bible, we need to go through the concepts of RS and RD, because the concepts are not that clear in NCERT.
Abba Cycle, is that true? Are NCERT books, like this young man is saying, are they less challenging than the private publishers for students who are ambitious to get better marks?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. Especially in the middle school, I think NCERT has come up with wonderful books, but I think what should be really kept in mind.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Am I?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
What should be kept in mind is the fact that what we felt in NCERT books was that there was a lot of research and lot of work which a teacher also needs to do, which is a great thing. But it would help if there is a help book or another book which is given for the teachers also.
Okay.
The other thing which I very strongly feel is that NCERT should be able to cater to the world of every single child, the surrounding of every single child, just as one of the panelists had talked about plurality, because the world of children is, the experience of children is different, and textbooks should be able to reflect that.
Right.
So I think the books will have to work on that. Plus, I would not agree that the content is not good. Middle school, senior school, the content is really good and well researched. But having said that, it's not a bad idea to have to encourage creativity in every single person.
Sure.
In fact, even teachers. Somebody said that we do not expect teachers to write good books. But teachers are at the ground level, and they do know what will work for the children and what will not work for the children.
Yes, I think
so
what both of you, what you and Janki Rajan have emphasized on is the importance
for the educationists.
Yes, ma'am. I think you've both emphasized on the importance of choosing and curating the right things for school children in NCERT books. Perhaps the battle and the argument starts when everybody isn't happy. Now, is it possible to have maximum number of people happy what NCERT books have, or is it just, especially history textbooks, is it just very, very political and contentious? We'll talk about it just a bit, and more questions from the students who are going to get new books from NCERT. Stay with us.
Brought to you by नया जंडू जेल कमर दर्द पर 2.5 गुना ज्यादा असरदार.
Amiti's MBA has been ranked among top 10 in India by Times of India 2017 B-School Survey, 4th year in a row. Yet another top ranking after being ranked amongst India's top 10 by Economic Times and Business Today.
अमेरिका की सबसे पुरानी सड़कों से आज की सड़कों तक हम मौजूद थे, और अब हम हैं इंडिया में. अमेरिका का मशहूर टायर ब्रांड अब यहाँ फायरस्टोन, ऑलवेज डिपेंडेबल.
कुमकरण आज सुबह सुबह
जॉब इंटरव्यू ब्रो.
ये ले फिलिप्स, ये पूरा चलेगा.
थैंक्स ब्रो.
इसमें है ड्यूरा पावर टेक्नोलॉजी, इसीलिए ये एक चले 4 ऑर्डिनरी ट्रिमर्स के बराबर. Innovation and you, Philips.
दबा दबा दर्द से दबा। जब दर्द बने बॉडी पर बोझ तो लंबी राहत के लिए नया ज़ंडू जेल। इसका आयुर्वेदिक फॉर्मूला कमर दर्द पर 2.5 गुना ज्यादा असरदार। ज़ंडू जेल लगाओ, कमर दर्द भगाओ। नया ज़ंडू जेल और नया ज़ंडू स्प्रे लगाओ, तुरंत दर्द भगाओ।
Make sure you choose something that reflects your style. Mark Bathing Luxury.
On agenda, we're talking about NCERT reviewing its textbooks. It's asked everyone for suggestions till the end of the month. Remember, textbook reviews have become very political. Every time a government changes, we've seen reviews, and recently the Karnataka government's review ended up in disastrous mistakes in some of these books. The students have lots of questions about what they want in the textbooks. What did you want to say?
I wanted to say that all the links provided in the NCERT books are very old, like from 2008, 2001. So my brother, who is in class 6 right now, had to write that there are 28 states in India, not 29. Because it was written in the
So did his
NCERT
teachers
book.
update that knowledge, or did they go by the textbook?
They knew that there were 29 states, but he had to write it because it was written in the NCERT book.
So Dr. Rajan, how often, because it's obviously a huge exercise, which is why it's not done so often. As Mr. Goyal is pointing out, the last time it was done was 2005 and now it's 2017, they've asked for suggestions. Ideally, how often should it be done?
Well, the point, I'd like to make 2 points here. One is that the children have been pointing out, expecting that every year that there should be something new. Now that newness one has to think about a little more carefully, because knowledge really doesn't change that often. The second thing is the example that the girl has given just now about the number of states. These are factual issues and they will change continuously. What are you going to do if within 6 months, within the academic year, a new state is formed? Then it cannot be put into the textbooks. So it is a given that teachers and the schools will take care of that. But as far as reviewing and re-looking at the books, it has to be a continuous exercise. The moment a book is written, it has to be reviewed. And the process of reviewing has to happen. And it's not a 1 yearly, 2 yearly thing. It's a continuous process of learning. By going back to schools, at NCERT Delhi, we also did one thing, which is collect feedback on the textbooks the very same year the textbooks were released. And that was a continuous exercise. So it's not as if you're going to do it only because it's time to print. It is to continuously understand how are the books being received, how are they being understood, are there better ways of, because there is no best book, so there's always a better way of doing it. And this constant effort has
Dr.
to be part
Padmanabha,
of
I wanted to ask
any
you,
textbook.
the people who did the books in Karnataka, they are now promising that all these typos that you've pointed out and these silly mistakes like confusing Saina with Sanya, they will be fixed very soon. Are you satisfied with that?
No, this is not going to happen at all, because this is the same story happening from past 3 years. When I pointed out in the beginning at around 2015 when the books were there, I was the first person to raise an issue across all the media and then brought it to the notice of even the Mudambaditaya also. Sir, there are so many mistakes. Don't ever tell that they are typographical errors. When once it has come out, students will still feel that these books are always better, books are always correct, and they always go about it. I also would like to add on here, the previous speaker was telling that, a learned man can write a very good textbook. No, you have to give a liberty to a person who has been in the ground, who has been teaching, who has been handling students, who knows the environment, who knows what is the subject, how do we frame the curriculum. Based on all those they can do. And
yeah, they have to have knowledge and research.
Review the books.
Education is not just pedagogy,
Yes.
it's also knowledge and research.
That's true.
And school teachers don't have the time to do that.
It's
not that they cannot. It's just that they don't have the time
Okay,
to do it.
Mr. Goyal wants to just add something here. Mr. Goyal just wants to add something here.
The most important, the time was 30 years back, the teaching was totally different. Now time is totally changed. Now latest lot of resources are there. Lot of teachers have lot of, equipment. They have a website. Teachers, on website also, on online also. on worksheets also, on CDs also, on workshops also.
But not everywhere.
Almost at least everywhere you find every publisher giving that this kind of materials. You can find any child. What he said, the child earlier said, that the challenging questions are not there. Why? Because NCERT.
That's right. He has a point. What Dr. Padmanabha is saying, that in government schools they won't have all these
That is true.
resources.
That's why we are saying that the NCERT or the SCERT books.
That's
why the NCERT books and the SCERT books are not for every child.
I just want to point out one thing.
Yes,
that
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Sehgal, yeah.
Sunetra,
Yeah.
are we saying that our teachers are without knowledge?
No.
And they just blindly follow the textbooks without really understanding and researching and deciding what is going to be good for the children.
They don't.
I mean, if our teachers are without knowledge, then
they have
whatever
finished studying when they become
write,
teachers.
Whoever may come
They
and
don't do research after that.
That is not true, ma'am. That is just not true. In fact, I just said in my earlier conversation that the NCERT books that are there in the middle school require the teacher to do a lot of research, and for that I compliment the organization that they have encouraged the teachers to
maybe
go
what Dr.
beyond
Rajan
the
is trying to
textbook
say
and to do
is
their
that
own research.
you were in a school and you knew teachers who did that, but perhaps every school that doesn't happen, and that's why we need a good solid set of textbooks.
No,
which people
Sunetra,
can rely
I'm not.
See,
Sunetra, please don't. No, Sunetra, please don't. No, I don't want you to confuse the issue. I'm not saying that every teacher is capable of writing a book. She's right in saying that every teacher is not capable of writing a book. But to give a blanket opinion that no teacher can write is not right. You know, in fact, that group which she was talking about,
we could talk about this for a long time,
and other people,
as those who are reviewing the textbooks are also going to be doing. Remember, till the month end, if you feel strongly, although it seems that NCERT perhaps is only accepting suggestions from teachers and not the general public. We all have opinions about what children should be studying. I want to thank all my guests and of course the students as well, so we're totally out of time. That's all time we have on Agenda. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.